common question I get asked is, what is a trust? A trust is kind of like your best friend that follows you around and does everything that you ask it to do, doesn't question it, and follows your set of instructions to a T. Well, that's kind of what a trust is. From a legal point of view, what a trust is the splitting of legal ownership from equitable ownership. What does that mean to people? What it really means is the ownership of items has two parts. The responsibility of what to do with that item, and that's taken care of by the trustee. That trustee is kind of like your best friend in my explanation. And then you have the beneficial owner. That's the beneficiary, the person who benefits from the trust. The trustee is the best friend that's walking around following your instructions. That's namely the trust, which is a set of instructions as to what should happen with your assets. And they're following that instructions that you leave for the benefit of the people you designate, your beneficiaries. And a trust is something that's used to control your assets and make sure that they're being used in a manner that you like while avoiding probate. And in many instances, protecting those assets not only from the beneficiary, but from other people who might raise a claim for those assets against the beneficiary. Oftentimes people ask me, should I use an individual trust, naming both spouses as the trustees and lifetime beneficiaries, or are we better off doing a joint trust? And this is something that estate planners get together all the time and they talk about and debate and say, which one do you like and which one do you don't like, and what are the pros and cons of both? And oftentimes we will do either or depending on the situation. And this is where having a relationship with your estate planner really comes in. Our preference is generally to do two individual trusts, to name both spouses as trustees, and to allow them to administer those trusts both jointly and individually. This allows us to really clearly define which spouse has either asset. And that comes into play when a person dies, because within our trusts, we have a series of sub-trusts. And one of the sub-trusts is a marital trust. That marital trust is a way that we can shelter money to avoid some probate taxes. And the way that works is that the money that gets put in the marital trust is actually held kind of over here. And what happens is that money doesn't become part of the estate of the second spouse to die and is held separately. And we want to designate what those assets are. And by having two separate trusts, we can do that because we're aligning the assets with each person's trust. A joint trust, on the other hand, is really two individual trusts that kind of smoosh together and work as one trust. And in some instances, we will use a joint trust. That might be for the couple that has been married for 50 years, that has one bank account and one house. The advantages of a joint trust is that they're easier to administer. They're less complicated. You don't have to have two bank accounts and keep track of two bank accounts. So the couple that comes to us with 50 years of marriage and one bank account and one house and one asset, maybe a joint trust might work better for them. And we have to get to know that client and know how their relationship is, what they do for money, how they handle their funds, and by learning that about the client will help us determine if a joint trust is appropriate or if two individual trusts are appropriate. And that's one of the really important reasons to get to know your attorney and have that relationship. Call us today.